we could squeeze our entire facility on here. So we're going to fill up, this land here is vacant now on our site. So this is the border of our site. All of our facilities are in this area here. And we've got basically vacant land right there. And we can squeeze the Swift facility in there. If we do that, it's a pretty complicated construction project, and it uses up pretty much every inch of land we've got available on that site. Our preference is to actually build it with a bit of expansion off to the side here, and I'll show you how that works. We've really been focused lately on adding community benefits. Talked about the partnerships we have already on the wet weather work and on the nutrient trading. In Norfolk, we're partnering with them again for an expansion of our facility there to deal with Swift, and we're building a waterfront trail and acquiring some property from the city of Norfolk. In Virginia Beach, we needed a large tank, and we're building that on a park, and a skate park is part of that. So community benefit where everybody gets a share of some positives. And in Hampton, we needed a new pump station on Bridge Street, which is a pretty tight area, so we partnered with the yacht club to make that work. So we're into this concept of, if we're going to invest regional money, let's make sure we get some multiple benefits out of it in the communities we're investing in. So this is going to be roughly a $300 million investment we're going to make here in the city of Newport News at the James River Treatment Plant. And you can see from this that this is the area we're talking about we would be building most of our Swift facilities, but the rest of the property is pretty full of existing facilities. And this is the gate coming in next to the gymnastics center. And this is all admin type facilities up here in the front. And from our perspective, to get enough land to make some of the process work go, it would be nice to relocate those off of this existing site. So our thought process has been, we've identified this area, about 4.5 acres right outside of our gate. So this is the road coming in. This is the road into the gymnastics facility and the HRSD. About 4 acres would be developed in that area. We're proposing to buy a little over 10 acres from the city and dedicate this part back as a conservation easement. And then we've got conservation easement that surrounds the plant itself. And let me show you what would go into that little area. So as I pointed out on the earlier map, we would take the administrative facilities that are in this area and relocate those out here to free up room for these tanks, and that's what's shown there. And you can see we're pretty full of Swift facilities back here in this diagram. The idea would be an administrative building at the front door, potentially with some shared conference space for community meeting space, some exterior bathrooms that could support the recreation facility use of the trail. You've got an access down here to the water right now. And then long-term, some additional benefits. The admin building would look something like this. This is the one we have at our Atlantic treatment plant. Those lights right there are Ocean Lakes High School behind us, so we're close by a high school at that point. But this is our admin building, which we did the same concept of putting the admin facilities closest to our neighbors. So in exchange for that land, obviously it's valuable to the city and valuable to your residents, we would propose building a trail around our facility that would end near that admin building over here, and essentially hug our fence line. So it's not river access, but it's river view. And you'd have a paved section, we'd have some elevated sections, we'd be fixing the shoreline through here, but it would provide really pretty vistas of the James River all the way around the plant, and then come back up and then tie back into your trails that exist in the park. So it starts, this is the berm, and it would start back here on the existing trail and tie in, come all the way around our treatment plant and back up. So the concept is, in exchange for that property, we would provide additional public access to the James River view shed there near your plant. The other thing we're proposing is we own this piece of property next to our facility on G Avenue. So there's the airport, there's 64, Jefferson Avenue, Bland. We own 2 pieces of property, well, it's all 1 piece of property at the moment. Our former maintenance shops were here on this 10-acre parcel, and we moved to this one in 2014 timeframe. When we did that, met with the city manager at the time and gave Newport News the first right of refusal should we ever sell this. If we are able to make this exchange work for the property next to our treatment plant, we would give you this piece of 10 acres with the improvements that are on it. Granted, the improvements are not great. That's why we moved. So it's not the best deal in the world. It is a piece of property, you control it. but in full disclosure, it's not the best building. So that would be part of the deal as well. And then finally, a cash payment. Whether we build on our existing footprint or we get the additional land we would really like to make this work, we also need some well locations off of our site. To make this work, when you're recharging the aquifer, you can't do it all in one spot. So the wells have to be about 1,000 feet apart, and each well would put about 2 million gallons of water into the ground a day. To make that happen, we need facilities that are spread out a little bit. So the ones we're showing on this map, these are on property we would own still. That's all part of the existing site. This is next to the existing cell tower, and I'll show you that. And these 5 are located on the former landfill, on the edges of the landfill, where it's really pretty out of sight and not conflicting with any existing uses. So essentially, we take our fully treated water, the drinking water quality water, would be piped to each of these well locations, and then there'd be a return pipe for when we're back flushing those wells, which happens on a daily basis. And those wells would look something like this. So it's basically a residential size building. In this case, we showed it in blocking the view of these buildings that exist today at cell tower. And then we would have similar facilities put around the outside of the landfill in these locations. Those we only need easements for, 40-year easements, and we would be willing to negotiate whether that's paid for up front in a lump sum or over the course of the 40-year easements. So really the direct benefits, I mean, there's a lot of indirect benefits to the city and to the region from SWIFT, but the direct benefits would be this walking trail with public access that doesn't exist today. Administration building that we build close to the plant, but it would have parking, restrooms, and shared community use space that would be available. Conservation easement on that front portion of the property towards the water. Make sure no one else uses it. We really like to have that buffer controlled next to our plant. Cash payment, and then that 10-acre site on G Avenue. Our current schedule moving forward, while it seems like we've got a lot of time left, we're actually pushing hard to get to the 2032 finish. So the idea is we're going to do 5 full-scale facilities between now and 2032. And to make all that happen, there's a sequence, obviously, and we're really looking to try to get some terms and conditions for this agreement in the early next year, January timeframe. We'd love to hold a public meeting out at Menchville High School or someplace close by to get the public's reaction to this concept. Didn't want to do that and get out in front of you. And so that's why we're here today, to 1, make sure that you're okay with us doing that, and 2, to give you this layout of how this moves forward from that point. So if we get that done and we bring you back a proposal with terms and agreement, we got some idea what the public thinks. We look for a public hearing at some point in February, I hope, an ideal world, and a conveyance of the land with the exchange of everything we just talked about, which is, again, public access trail, facility on G Avenue, cash payment.
And I want to stress also, in addition to the public hearing on the land disposition, you would also want a conditional use permit for the rest of the proposal that they're doing. So there would be that public process, which you could either tie together, but there is 2 pieces of that for a public process.
With the conservation easement, what would happen to the visitor center and the boardwalk that's out there right now?
So the way we originally looked at the trail was potentially tying into that, leaving the boardwalk in place and tying into it. We look at maybe rebuilding it. I know it's got some conditional challenges. So the idea right there, you can see the idea was the existing trail and boardwalk would be tied into by this one, but it may require some reconstruction and then an additional piece to tie back in at that side. We would work around the visitor center if that's what the city wanted. More than willing to work with the city on any combination of rebuilding that, doing something different with it, incorporating it with our building. That's sort of up in the air at this point, based on the input we would get from you, from staff, and from the public.
And as you mentioned, we have been out, I've walked it with Michael and gone through it at the center. It isn't in the best condition, so if there was some possibility to work with them on what we do there happens in the future, we would certainly be open to doing that. Not of the trail, but the maintenance of the shoreline, that would be all on
That's all on
HRSD going forward, all the maintenance The repairs that need to be done now would all be handled by HRSD.
Including that section that would be in the conservation. So
Going back to that slide 14, well, for each one of those arrows, is that where you would have for the well?
yes, sir.
So what you said on slide 15, that one of the...
There would be one small building like that at each of those arrow locations.
And that's the one that's already out there, and I believe we stayed, the tree-looking thing is a cell tower.
Yeah, this is all what's there today
Yeah.
at your cell tower. So these buildings are here today. This would be our building that's right in front of those, trying to screen those.
What is the footage on that?
It's
About 20 by 40 feet?
20 by 40. So it's a small house.
Yeah.
It's basically a pump station.
Yes, all it has in it is the piping for the well and a back flush pump that's used to move the water back out of the well because it has to continually clean the screens by back flushing them on a daily basis.
And from our conversation, I don't think they would have any problem with it. And we're talking with staff. We obviously would want to be engaged in signing off on what those buildings.
Yeah, we just picked a.
Yeah.
This is an
That's something-
example.
It's a good example. We obviously would be working with them, should council wish to go forward on what that design and what that building would look like, to make it as unobtrusive, which I think they've tried to do with the landfill placements there. But at this point, we still don't know if they can go there. I don't know if you've gotten any more definitive information on the landfill.
We're pretty sure we could go there. As far as getting through the landfill to put our wells in, there's a process that has to happen to seal that all the way down below the landfill areas. Obviously, you're not moving what's in the landfill in and out of the well, but our consultants are saying it's very possible. So
It looks like the trails that you're proposing there do not include anything on the Riverview Farm property. I just want to confirm that.
correct. With the except, well, the piece of land that we're talking about. So technically, this is the existing, the road comes in here, so this is technically our fence line right there today. So this piece of property would be part of that.
And the conversation in terms of the road itself, they would reposition so that we would still have access to the gymnasium center that's back there. But the
What about
idea
the-
was to do as much connectivity as we can.
What about the dog park?
So the dog park we need an easement to get a pipe under it. We'd have to relocate it just temporarily during construction, put it back, fix it up, make the dogs happier. We actually had to do that in Virginia Beach. We've had to relocate a dog park there, and their Parks and Rec, and I don't know if Michael would agree to this, their Parks and Rec folks say more people bring dogs to parks than kids in Virginia Beach.
They care about the dogs more than kids.
Don't quote him on that. And so we'll be very careful with the dog park. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know, as in reference to the boardwalk piece, and you said that'll be so that no river usage, but river view.
Correct.
So would that be, like you have it in this picture, it's just able to walk, no seating or anything in
I
there?
think that the idea would be there would be some places where we'd have some seating and overlook. So I think there's some wide spots in that, but that's just a visual. So there's sections that are going to have to be elevated walk like that. There's sections that will be paved on the ground and where we'll support the structure on the side where the slope goes down. But for the most part, we would work with a citizen group and Parks and Rec to design that with the facilities that people would like to make sure that there are places you can sit and enjoy the view. The concept is, I'd set it to view only because it doesn't allow you to get down to the water.
Exactly, okay.
It's elevated around there, following our fence line.
And I don't want to get too far ahead, but some of the conversations that we are having at the staff level is there may be an opportunity also here. If you'll recall, it's off of site, but the Menchville Marina is very adjacent. So we're having conversations, how do we support or build on what they're proposing to do and make that connection to the marina where there is water access. And if you recall, a few months ago, you were leasing it to a new proprietor, and they are making some improvements. So we have some opportunities there to possibly partner on this and really make something neat for really nice for the community.
And we're not in the trail operating business, so the concept here would be, we would dedicate that easement back for a recreation easement to the city and Parks and Rec. So I think Michael is good with that, and we build it to their standards and make that work.
You mentioned a community committee, and I really like that idea. One time we did have one, did we not, an advisory committee for the farm?
Yes, ma'am, going back, which raises the question of something, again, we've talked about internally, what are the next steps for the rest of the property? Because obviously, the question is what happens next? And we are right now working on coming back to you with a recommendation, not necessarily in conjunction with this, because this stands separately, to how we might move forward with establishing a committee, a mixture of citizens, community representatives, maybe the Chamber of Commerce, maybe some of the Tourism Bureau, because I know some council members have expressed some interest in obviously having it be a park, but also having it energized as well.
Yeah.
So not just purely passive use. So we would be coming back to you as we get through this process, but with some recommendations to establish that committee to start talking about going forward with obviously Parks and Rec and some other, probably spearheaded by our office. But that's the next logical question, and what are those next steps, and what are you going to do with the rest of the property? But at this particular point in time, that 10 acres or so, I would suggest it kind of stands on its own in this project itself. And as Ted has mentioned, they're looking to create a buffer as well as add some value to the property and some things that have already, that the citizens have been talking about for a long time. A lot needs to happen on those next steps, but I think it's timely, and this is a good segue to be able to do that, in the not too distant future.
So your offices are the community, could you say community room?
So we tentatively come up with some concepts of how we could design the building so that you can use the conference room in the evenings, after hours. The building can be set up so we'll still have staff there, obviously, but basically other doors lock. You've got bathroom facilities and conference room available for community meetings at that location after hours.
So it would be available?
Yes, ma'am.
And the parking that would be necessitated by this building would also be available for use for people coming to use the trail. And the restrooms, those are huge for the recreation.
I have a question on, not this piece of property, but the other facility.
Yes, sir.
Has transportation approached you, or what are your plans for that facility?
We don't have plans at this point, so I know that a number of city staff members have looked at it.
You're talking about the plan that's here, but you want to go there.
Oh, you're talking about Boat
Yes,
Harbor?
yes,
Boat
he's
Harbor.
talking
Oh,
about
I'm sorry,
the
not
Boat Harbor.
not Gehavik.
No,
So yeah, so
no.
Boat Harbor. So that is planning. We're planning to close that facility in the 2025 timeframe.
About when this comes online, is that?
No, well these
I mean,
are
the Swift.
as Swift. So we can't build Swift here because it's too small, and it has. We can't even get the wastewater upgrades we need there, let alone the Swift facilities. So we are on the move now to push that flow under the river all the way over to the Nanceman plant, which is on the other side. And what will be required at that point will be some pump station facility. And we're looking whether that's on this facility or maybe some adjacent land nearby, because it's so tight here, it's really hard to build a pump station and keep that operating while we're building it. So we're in the early exploring stages of what we need to do there, but ultimately that becomes pretty much vacant land that we would be looking to the city, do something for you guys. I don't know what, it doesn't have a lot of great uses right now. It's kind of wedged in between industrial uses on this side, which is the oil tanks are over here, and there's some other industrial uses. And then, of course, the small boat harbor is right there with the fishing uses. So a little hard to envision yet how that can have a real positive use, but I think with some creativity, there's something there.
I think Question too, is there some discussion about the future expansion of the Monitor Merrimack? Where that
And
would go?
VDOT has not talked to us about
They
that.
haven't. And going back to the G Avenue property that they mentioned giving to the city, we have done some preliminary review. We've taken a number of staff through that for potential uses. Everything from the, it's pretty much large open space and in a good location, but we've had police and fire through there. They have some large equipment that they may be able to store there. We may be able to store some Parks and Rec type facilities and save some money by using that. There may be some other uses. We have not come up with anything definitive that should council pursue this. We obviously would come back to you with our recommendations because it would need some improvements, but some of the things we might propose might not be that critical. But you would have control of 10 acres right there near the airport, not too far from some other property where the Industrial Development Authority happens in that general area also. But we have been going out there and reviewing it, and I personally toured it, and then staff has gone out several times since then, just to look at what might be possible should council want to pursue.
Because as I remember correctly, Parks and Rec has to store all of those lights, those things, and don't we pay to have that done?
Yes, you agree. It's been in the last 4 or 5 months that you did a new contract to lease. They have a lot of things, and some of it has to be a controlled climate, some of it can't.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we are looking at, but you also have some very expensive equipment through police and fire. They have consistently been looking for opportunities to get it out from under the weather and prolong the life. So there are a number of things that we could possibly look at in that general area. But we also want to be respectful of the location in Ferguson and some of your other corporate entities around there to make sure that we don't do anything in any way, causes them any concern about the activities there.
Any further questions?
Thank you very much for your time.
If I may, just any ideas on the timeline, and are you okay with them taking the lead and going ahead and having some community meetings to get some feedback? We'll certainly be there and participate, but we would allow them to take the lead. Even some things, I know we talked about the potential of getting out on the landfill to do some testing. I just want to make sure everybody's clear, so when people see people out there, that you will understand that
You
this is
haven't
what
made a
it's
decision,
about.
but you're letting us
Yes.
go out there and do some more exploring.
But to be able to be prepared, should you decide there's some things that they need to do at the landfill, to do some testing, to make sure that those locations.
And that's not destructive. We aren't digging up and stuff in the landfill. It's using ground penetrating radar, so it's on top of the surface. We're not going to penetrate the gap or do anything in the landfill.
And we certainly, as we've gone through that process with them, would reserve the right through our discussions if a site that they're proposing doesn't necessarily work for some reason that we may not be aware of now, that we have the opportunity to see if there are some other potential locations. We certainly appreciate them trying to do at least 4 of them on their current site, so it doesn't impact other areas, but we've tried to keep it away from the prime area. So whatever council decides to do with the rest of that area in terms of the park and some of the other access for the community, that you have as much leeway to do what you need to do, whatever the committee ultimately would decide.
I would suggest also that whatever you decide to do in the public meeting, that it not be in December, which is, well, a lot of people are very busy. I would say you need to maybe start after the first of the year. I don't know, how do other people feel about that, but it's awfully hard to get people out for a meeting.
Well, and I would also, and don't mean to volunteer at these folks, but I know there's some regular meetings for some groups that are very interested, and I don't know if they have their December meetings, but you might want to invite him, or if there's some other meetings that it may be helpful for them to come and do this proposal for. I think they would
We'll go
certainly
anywhere,
be-
anytime.
So the combination of existing meetings and some future meetings might be helpful to help them get as much impact as we can get. We will do what we can if council wishes to try and help get the information out, whether it's something on our cable channel, whatever it is. And again, we're not getting in front of council, it's just making sure we get as much information out there to the public, because we want this to be as open as we possibly can, because we do recognize the importance of that property, and council does have plans for the future for it, will have plans at some point in the future for the remainder of that. And in terms of any of I know he's gone through them, but the terms of where we come to agreement, we could bring back to you of what those final numbers are if council decides to go forward in terms of for the purchase and for, using the wells and those kinds of things and easements, that type of thing. So council will see this a number of times more over the course of the next couple of months, but at this point, as I said, we will allow HRSD to take the lead on the public outreach.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.